And if not, that's okay too. So what I'd like to do then is get the call started. We are after the top of the hour. Each and every week, for those of you that may be new or listening to this call for the first time, we do this call every week. And I say we, and I really mean Ron, our host for the call. And Ron is a really, not to sound cliche, but a servant leader. He leads by example. He serves all of us with the information, the product, the research, the due diligence, the time, the energy that he's put into this passion of his. And so we're very fortunate to be here, in my opinion, to be exposed to, some information that you're just really not going to get in the common areas that we look for. So I just want to say welcome to everyone. And Ron, I want to say welcome to you. I know we kind of got on a little tangent there about some of the stuff James and I were talking about, but at the end of the day, you're here again. We appreciate you, and let's have a wonderful call. I'm excited tonight. Feels really good. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
I
welcome.
Really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dover. And I almost got sideswiped off topic. I mean, my blood's boiling. I'm not even sure whether he was saying that was beneficial or detrimental to somebody's health. But anytime I hear an all carnivore diet, boy, I'm just like, okay, let's go.
Right.
So anyway, but I
and he's not talking boxing gloves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got my knockout punch ready to go. But anyways, I was going to talk tonight about President Trump and his treatment that he got while he was at Walter Reed Hospital, because so many people are worried and wondering if they ever did get the COVID disease or virus. What should we do to kind of prevent the COVID whole thing and this? And so I want to talk a little bit about that tonight, because I found it very, very interesting. The two main drugs that they used, which was one of them was the artificially created plasma, and that's initiated to initiate an immune response based upon antibodies from someone else that's actually had corona and survived it, from their own immune system developing their own antibodies, and then they actually kind of clone those, is what that plasma stuff is all about. But then they used that other one, and doggone, I was going to write that down because I just didn't want to forget the name and pronounce it properly. But I'm sure everybody that kind of been watching that knows about it. It's an experimental drug. It's not resveratrol, but it sounds similar, something kind of like that. Resveratrol is in vitamin E and all that kind of stuff. But it's not that. But anyways, I just more wanted to focus on, anybody watch that news program when he came out of Walter Reed and flew back to the state capitol, took his mask off while he was waving out on the balcony, and everybody went berserko on national TV. But one of the things that caught my eye, look at how much nutrition he was being given while he was in the hospital. It wasn't big drugs and stuff outside of the two. And like I said, the one was plasma. It's called artificial plasma, just antibodies. And then there was that new upcoming drug from, I believe it's Moderna, is the one that is kind of pioneering that one for vaccines for COVID-19. But he was given vitamin D. He was given calcium. He was given just a regular old aspirin and melatonin. He was given vitamin, what was the fat, vitamin D, calcium, zinc. He was given 25 milligrams of zinc, chelated through an IV. These are things that are in our complete vitamins. The amounts that they have and that they actually gave to him, they actually gave the dosage and everything on a couple of calls. You didn't pick it up on CNN or anything else. It was only on Fox News. But you got a hell of an education real quick. Wow. The only thing that he took that I don't have access to through Enriching Gifts or any other health food store for that matter is that plasma. But if you had COVID-19, your doctor immediately is going to order that right off the bat, because that's being mass produced right now. That's chemical production. We don't need a human body for that. We can just clone and mass produce that stuff. The vaccine is under third stage trials, and so he was able to use it because he's the president. But there is that law that he signed into effect where if you had a possibility of being terminal, you could actually get access to experimental drugs like he did. And doggone, I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of that drug, but I will definitely get it next week because they talk about it all the time. But the vitamin D levels, I believe he had 5,000 IUs of vitamin D daily, D3. He had zinc, 25 milligrams through an IV daily. And again, what is vitamin D? What is calcium? Calcium is an alkalizer. Your body is going to function way, way more efficient with less acid, which brings down the alkalinity base in the human body. So the more calcium you take, the higher the pH goes, because calcium is a natural acid neutralizer. Vitamin D, a lot of people don't know this. And again, this is why I do these calls. And it irks me that we don't have literally thousands and thousands of people on these calls each week, because I guarantee you what I'm about to say, most people have never heard it before, unless you came on this call. Vitamin D is what allows calcium to be absorbed and carried into the human cell. If you can take all the vitamin C and the calcium you want, and not vitamin C, the calcium you want, and if you're low on vitamin D, your calcium is not going to be utilized. That's why most people's calcium, when they start to get older, starts to build up in their bones as bone spurs and calcium deposits rather than assimilating calcium, and they lose bone loss. That's the problem. They're vitamin D deficient, and they keep pouring calcium in their body, which is only creating problems, not solving problems. And then zinc. How many times have everybody on this call heard me talk about zinc? Zinc is the mineral that activates the enzymes that regulate the speed at which all immune system cells function. So of course they're going to give zinc.
Zinc is important.
But anybody can take that.
We need to get zinc.
Yeah, zinc is in the multivitamin, the Complete Vitamin Plus, and unfortunately we're still out of that. I'm waiting on 5 ingredients. We've been waiting on that for over 6 months. And
hey, Ron, I don't mean to interrupt you, Ron, but it's relevant to what you're talking about right now. And you know, I've had I told you my nieces and nephew, they had COVID. And I have not seen them. However, you know, the protocol from the doctors, and we're going back probably 2-3 months ago, was zinc, and then Rod and Elaine, you know, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Sure. She's just ordered a bunch of zinc, specific zinc, not in the multivitamin, although I know that's there. Right. So what is the benefit? So okay, perfect. So how much should we be taking of that?
25 milligrams per day of chelated zinc. Chelated means it's going to be higher absorbed. It's already got an amino acid or some kind of protein chelate to it that's going to make it highly absorbable by the body. And you don't, and I tell you, if you can get zinc and copper together, you get such a great antioxidant benefit rather than taking the two separately. So if you can buy zinc and copper together at a ratio of 10 to 1, 12 to 1, that would actually be very, very good. And 25 milligrams of zinc, by the way, is a pretty good dose. So, and that's enough to kick up anybody's immune system, but that's why they got it. And that's exactly what President Trump was given. And then the one thing that they missed that I know for a fact, if their medical doctors are on top of this at all, is B12. Because you keep noticing they want to check anybody with COVID-19, they keep checking their fluid oxygen levels. You can do that with an oximeter at the end of your index finger. And they want to see everybody. And this is something that I finally reheard it, I guess. I knew about it through hematology from decades ago, but in order to be a healthy, functioning metabolic body, your nascent flowing oxygen in your blood has to be above 95%. Anytime you go below that, you're going to develop health problems, especially pulmonary or lung problems, breathing, cellular exasperation, all that stuff. But anyway, so what they didn't mention in national news was B12. B12 and folic acid, because your B12 is what actually makes red blood cells. And red blood cells are the only thing your body has that allows to pick up oxygen out of the bronchial tubes in the lung tissue and distribute it to the rest of the body. So they did not mention that on TV, and I know for a fact doctors do prescribe that extra vitamin B12 and folic acid for people that have COVID. They had a big thing here in Montana about it when they had testing about 4 or 5 weeks ago. at the county fairgrounds. They had a statewide test and it was all paid for by the Montana state legislature. But vitamin B12 folic acid is a big part of COVID treatment and even prevention. And I'm telling you, everything, if you took the zinc, if you took the calcium, if you took the vitamin D, if you took the B12 folic acid, you could actually potentially prevent all of that stuff. There's absolutely no reason why your immune system couldn't fight off COVID-19 and then have to get it and then go through the treatment. You'd probably be a carrier and not even know it if you had a strong immune system, and you wouldn't even be a carrier for that long. So they always talk about wearing masks to protect the vulnerable. And I say BS. That mask can trap that stuff and actually exasperate it within you to where you become non-symptomatic to very symptomatic and go into a deep COVID onslaught real quick. So if you really care about people, do the prevention, get on the nutrition. That's the way to truly prevent the vulnerable as well as yourself. I'm going to worry about me first before I worry about anybody else. Because if I'm not good, then I can't be good for anybody else. And that's just common sense. So that's one thing I really wanted to talk tonight a little bit about. I'm sorry I missed the conversation with James a little bit and that carnivore diet, but this is important. The COVID isn't going anywhere. Europe is closing down again. That's one of the reasons why we're having problems getting our raw materials in for my Complete Vitamin Plus. But I did want to talk there's a lot of different things that we can do outside of being the President of the United States and getting in prestigious Walter Reed Hospital and having access to medicine that most of us don't have access to. There are a lot of things we can do that we have simple and easy access to. Zinc, 25 micrograms per day minimum. And I believe zinc is in micrograms. It might be in milligrams, but whatever it is in the health food store. And I don't have my vitamin bottle with me, otherwise I could tell you real quick, but I'm even out of that myself. Zinc and copper. And then the vitamin D, 5,000 IUs daily. And you don't have to have Hashimoto's or some adrenal failure or this or that. That's just a really good, strong dose. And heading into the wintertime, you're not going to convert LDL cholesterol to vitamin D because we just don't have the sunshine and the sunlight in the skies anymore up north. So we're heading into the winter months, cloudy, lots of snow, a lot of cold days, a lot of sunless days where the sun isn't out for very long. And if it is, it's usually 20, 30 below. And who wants to go outside for sunlight at 30 below zero? Not me. So, but it's important to get vitamin D in your body. So start supplementing with it. Your body can make vitamin D, but again, all these people that are on statin drugs, that's why they have a high risk of cancer. Because in order to have your body make vitamin D, your body actually converts LDL cholesterol, which the doctors refer to your dangerous heart attack, stroke, your bad cholesterol is LDL. Your body actually can convert LDL cholesterol into vitamin D using sunlight and two other nutrients and another enzyme. So that's the way your body makes vitamin D, and your body makes calcium too. I don't know how many people don't realize that. Cows have tremendous amount of big bones that are made with calcium. All they do is eat grass. They don't feed them supplements and supplemental calcium and this and that. And we all know how healthy grass-fed beef is, or grass-fed anything, natural without the antibiotics and the steroids. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight, was the vitamin D specifically. Like I said, it's 5,000 IUs a day, zinc, 25 milligrams daily, and double check, make sure they're in milligrams, not micrograms, and I'll clarify that in next week's call.
I'm sorry, Ron, what was the first one you just mentioned?
Well, there's zinc, vitamin D, there's calcium, and there's aspirin. An 81 milligram aspirin twice daily is what the president was given, and melatonin. I didn't even talk about melatonin yet. Melatonin has the ability to really calm down your immune system and prevent that cytokine storm that all the doctors used to talk about, which is that really over-aggressive response by the immune system to where it starts destroying tissue and organs and makes you struggle with any viral infection 5 to 10 times worse, and even up to the point where it could kill you, from your own immune systems to aggressive response. So they give him melatonin for that. So that's what all of us can do. And you can buy melatonin. I wouldn't take more than probably 15 milligrams of it. I remember back in the day when it very first came out, they had 15 and 25 milligrams. They even had a 50 milligram. I took a 25 milligram one because I was just worked all the time, and I was just busy all the time. I was always over at ASU Medical Campus at all hours of the day, and I worked at night just so I could spend time over there in their medical library. But I remember one time I took it because I just needed to get to sleep, and I only needed 4 hours. I woke up over 28 hours later. I woke up a day and a half later, and I had missed a whole day's worth of work. And so they weren't too thrilled about that. And I'm like, no way. I just couldn't believe it. For days and days, I just couldn't believe it. I can literally sleep that long. So melatonin will put you to sleep. So again, I wouldn't encourage anybody doing 5 to 10 milligrams, anything higher than 10 milligrams. Try with the 5, it'll work for you. If it's a good quality melatonin. So that's all I have to say about the COVID-19. But I thought it was really interesting because it was really wide open discussion on national television about what the doctors did to treat him. And he's doing extremely well. Him and Melania both. You don't hear about Melania much at all, but you hear about him. But they're both no symptoms anymore whatsoever. And they check him for fever. They check his blood oxygen levels twice a day. They check his lung capacity at least once a day. And he's about as good as he ever was. So it worked. That's the bottom line. So that's all I'm going to talk about tonight. If anybody has any questions or comments, anybody needs to repeat something there, let's go ahead and open it up for live conferencing, Dover, and then we'll get to that carnivore thing if we want to spend 5-10 minutes on that. Because I do have something to say about it. It's really not good. It's from my own experience, and like I said, I've done over 68,000 people's blood, and that's over the last 15, 20 years. Actually, it's over the last 30 years. I take that back. It's exactly 30 years, March the 14th this year. And, one of the consistent things I constantly see is how meat flesh eaters, the meat flesh diet, where you have at least 2, if not 3 meals a day of muscle tissue meat flesh, you're a cancer patient, or you're a cold and flu patient. You're a very sick person patient. And those are the consistencies that I see with all these people that have disease, illness, sickness, and really bad health. They're big, heavy meat eaters. And I constantly see the effects of that kind of diet in a person's body through a blood analysis. Your blood cells are so clogged up, you have fungus running through your blood everywhere. Your blood cells are so stuck on top of each other, they can't oxygenate. So your body's literally starving and barely struggling along to even function to any degree of efficiency at a cellular level. So that's all I want to say about that, but I want to get to any questions while we're still on topic of COVID or any of the supplement questions. So anybody got any questions at all about the COVID treatment for President Trump that I just talked about? Anybody need some clarification or anything like that?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. Everybody.
That's what this call is for.
Yeah,
if you're talking, we cannot hear you. Okay, perfect.
No, I heard somebody.
Okay. Yeah, Ron, this is Sanj here.
Yeah.
In regards to zinc, there is also a liquid zinc that's available. What's the difference, advantage, disadvantage with a liquid zinc compared to something that comes in a
liquid zinc has already been chelated through some kind of an acid, whether it's lemon, whether it's ascorbic acid, or some kind of an acid that has a leaching process. You can even do it with hydrochloric acid. There's different ways to break down metal-based minerals like zinc, copper, nickel, those kind of things, iron. Our human body needs all of those I just mentioned. And the way that your body breaks it down from an elemental or a solid state to a liquid cellular state that your cells can use is through exposure to hydrochloric acid in the digestive process. And you expose anything to acid. We did an experiment. I'll never forget it. I was in the 10th grade biology class, and I thought of his name in about 10 minutes. I know I could even remember my teacher's name. But anyways, I remember the day that we did an acid chemical demonstration. what's the effect of exposing metals to hydrochloric acid? And we only used about a 30 to 40%, it wasn't even 60, 70% full strength. It was diluted to about 30%. And I remember you were told to bring either an old spoon, a knife, or a fork, but it had to be metal to class. And I used to dig in the dirt and stuff when we were little kids. In fact, my little sister, she still had a lot of old rusty stuff. And so I bought an old fork. And remember putting it in that glass of that acid. Boy, it sizzled, it smoked, it fizzed. And it literally, in less than 10 minutes, you took it back out, and all the tongs on the fork were completely dissolved, gone. Now, your stomach is really only between a 6 and 12% hydrochloric acid content. So it's even way more diluted than what we had available. But you could have literally put that pure acid, like battery acid and stuff, you could have put that metal in there, and literally, I mean, within probably 30 to 45 seconds, you could have done that exact same thing that took 10 minutes to do, which is dissolve the tongs of that fork. And the more of the fork you put in there, the less of the fork you pulled out after the few minutes of being in that acid. And it just went straight into solution. There wasn't a bunch of floating metal residue on the top or anything like that. So getting back to your question, Sanj, that's the benefit of a liquid. But if you have a good digestive system and you're taking enzymes, there's no reason why you wouldn't produce hydrochloric acid and have a balanced digestive system. So there really is no one advantage over the other than the one has already been exposed and it's a broken down version of zinc. Yeah, but if they don't chelate that once it's been dissolved, then there's a problem of absorption with a liquid, because that'll pass through your body a lot faster than a solid will. Solid gets caught up and only moves as fast as the digestive process. With liquids, depending on how they're chelated, if they're even chelated, it can be absorbed straight through your cheek tissues and through your stomach tissues into the bloodstream, and they bypass the chelates and they don't get absorbed very well in the cellular level.
Okay. Great.
So there's a good side and a downside to it. So,
okay, yeah. Makes sense. The other thing was, you're talking about B vitamins.
Yeah.
So there's this B complex. It's called sublingual liquid. So a sublingual liquid.
You know, what's the wait? What's the brand name? Because I'm going to tell you, all those sublinguals, I never once had a B12 ever work. You could see red blood cells chewed up, diminished. I mean, really breaking apart, deficient, small, underdeveloped, and B12. The only reason, one of the main reasons. In fact, I'm not going to say the main reason anybody takes B12 is because that's where your body uses to make red blood cells. 4 different enzymes are activated with B12. 3 of them actually manufacture the red blood cell, and the other one activates the enzyme that releases the blood cells from the bone marrow into the bloodstream once they've been formed. The B12 and folic acid is what makes and manufactures what your body uses to make and manufacture red blood cells in the human body.
Okay, so this is a company called Nature's Bounty.
Never heard of them.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm just not a big fan of liquid B12s. I mean, I used to get shots all the time, and they were a hit and a miss. When you got a good one, wow, you just like a little kid. I mean, there you are with your red Keds tennis shoes with them white outer lace. Boy, you could jump high and just like Superman, man. I remember jumping around in the streets and everything, and I wasn't a young kid. I was in Phoenix doing my bodybuilding and stuff. But you could be on that tennis court all day long with even these younger guys, and they're 15 to 20 years old. And I was about 30, 32. Man, I could run circles around all of them. They couldn't even begin to keep up. But I'll tell you, you keep that up and your body isn't conditioned to take that kind of exercise. That's what the Russians did during the Olympics and stuff in the real early to mid 70s. And they died of heart attacks right there on the track. Mass just blew their heart apart. So that's the downside with taking too much B12, but they were doing it intravenously and stuff. It's called blood doping. They were doing several things that were questionable, almost like what's his name, the Tour de France guy that lost all of his medals and stuff. The one with the cancer. Oh gosh darn it, can't think of his. Lance Armstrong. Yeah, he was took all his medals for blood doping, and so. The getting back to your thing, I've never met a sublingual B12 that actually worked. And you can see whether they work or not just by looking at the red blood cells in the human body.
Wow, good to know.
Yeah. Yep. Anybody else have any questions, comments, real quick? Anybody? No? Okay, James, from Australia. I want to bring you back in here if I could, buddy, and you tell me what I missed that you and Dober were discussing, because I really do want to talk about that carnivore diet.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've just sent a link to Dover on it, but what it is, it's this guy. His name's Paul Saladino, and he's got an MD after his license. But what he's talking about is, why a meat flesh diet is obviously the best way to go, and he's put a lot of links on there, Ron, and I think it's a case of just trailing through all the links, because I think I think it will boil your blood. He just talks about beef organs, bone marrow, what he eats in a day, and he does a demonstration where he just puts all these meat organs from animals, and that's what he eats. And it's a total animal-based diet.
Okay. Well, and if it's a wild, like a venison and stuff like that, buffalo, organic, there's no steroids, any of that kind of stuff in it. Not a bad diet. I mean, Indians used to live off of a carnivore diet. Native American Indians, they did that, and the old soldiers that had the forts back in the Old West days, they didn't have vegetables and fruits. They were always scavenging out for meat. One, they could store it a lot longer than they could vegetables and fruits, but they didn't have any room inside of those forts to grow a garden. So back in the Old West days, they did. But let me just say something. You didn't see any 100-year-old people back in the Old West days. Most of them died in their 40s and 50 years of age. You just didn't see people getting old back in, the 1840s, 50s, 60s, or 70s, even 1880, 1890. And it wasn't because we didn't develop medicine. It was because of the damn diet. And a lot of people don't even realize that you can drop a silver dollar. It doesn't have to be broken down or anything. They used to keep their water completely bacterial and fungal free, traveling across the deserts inside those big old 55-gallon or 45-gallon wine drums is what I call them. But they used to have 2 of those barrels on each one of the wagons on each side. That's the way they went across the prairies in the desert back then. And they could literally keep water for months completely sterile. Just drop a silver dollar in the bottom of the barrel. There was enough organic stuff in the water that would actually create the acid that would leach the silver to neutralize any bacteria or anything else in those barrels. And they kept that silver dollar in there, and when that silver dollar was leached, all that wood had absorbed all that silver, so you didn't need the silver dollar anymore. And that was something I was really fascinated when I researched that whole Old West Civil War, all that stuff, and even all the way back to the Romans. They knew the properties of silver and gold. Silver was very, very used very often in the whirlpools and stuff by the kings and the queens and the royalty. So, but like I said, even back then, they were only living to 40, 50 years of age. So, but that's kind of there. But the carnivore diet, man, I just love. And Dover, go ahead and send me that link, because I'm going to send a message to that guy. I would love to have him come on here and try to sell anybody on a carnivore diet, even a wild game carnivore diet. It will destroy your health. And I'd love to see him refute evidence that I've seen in the 68,000+ people's blood that I've looked at. And I mean, I can see the athletes, because I did the Phoenix Suns, I did some of the Houston Rockets, I've done some of the Kansas City Chiefs. I used to do blood analysis on athletes, both football, tennis, baseball, mainly basketball is where I got started with the Phoenix Suns. You could just see the crap that the carnivore diet did to people. And the older you get, the worse your health is because of the coagulation of your red blood cells. It's called severe erythrocyte aggregation. It will diminish your oxygen, which affects every single cell and the ability of the cell to function efficiently and even reproduce itself with an intact DNA programming. And when you start eating meat flesh, especially meat flesh protein from animals, boy, your digestive efficiency and your overall metabolic health goes to crap in a handbasket, especially over the age of 45. I see it all the time. And I would be happy to have that conversation with anybody. So again, you know, these people that go out and promote all this crap, it's all fad stuff. We all know about the cholesterol dangers when you have too much high LDL, which is a fast oxidizing cholesterol. And the only place you get LDL cholesterol is from animal flesh. It's not found in any kind of a plant. Those are all sterols, plant fats. They're completely different than the fats from an animal, like an LDL cholesterol. And the difference is all of those animal fats, they oxidize very, very quickly, meaning they harden. So therefore, your body will accumulate it. It'll store it. It'll build up in your body, creating impaired circulation, all kinds of impaired blood flow throughout the small vessels of the brain and other parts of the body. I mean, I just really, man, I'm telling you, I'm sitting here sweating. That's why I'm not on, why I'm not on a Zoom picture tonight, man. I'm fuming.
Yeah. Hey,
Nobody
Ron,
should be promoting that. And it's the big weight loss, like the what was it? Not the Mediterranean diet. What do they call it? Keto diet. Yeah, everybody goes jumping on the bandwagon with that stuff, and that's been going strong now for a good 2-3 years. Now you're starting to see people who suffer with all the joint problems, and I've already been through that with a lot of people from over 15, 20 years ago. You know, when the Atkins diet first came out, and the Power Up Protein with Michael Thurman. I bet you people don't even remember his infomercial or his name. He was one of the very first people. He was I don't know about a bodybuilder, but some kind of a fitness guy. He's a bigger guy, and he promoted that diet because he got very muscular and very big with it. And he lost a lot of weight. That's the way he prepares for his competitions. Well, that's good for an athlete, but you can't live on that. Any athlete knows that. You don't live in bodybuilding competition physique or form year-round. You only do that. You got to cut calories. You got to increase your protein. I mean, your body goes through hell trying to get ready for a competition. That's why I gave it up. I just didn't have the work ethic to maintain that kind of a physique and stuff. So 4 years, that was enough for me. I had it. Plus, I started my business, and my life took a whole different direction. But again, you know, you go back to that high-protein diet, and I mean, this has been at least 30, 35 years, and I can just see all the problems. I can cite the problems decade after decade after decade after decade with a high-protein meat flesh diet. Nobody's going to get away with a big benefit from that. More people than not are going to suffer severe, almost irreversible problems if you're old enough that you don't have the ability to reverse it after all those years of damage been done. Cartilage loss, bone deterioration, bone density loss, because your body is leaching so much, producing so much acid, then you're not taking calcium supplements because you're taking all up a high intake of protein. Your body's producing hydrochloric acid to digest and process that protein through the body. Well, where's the counterbalance? Once that high protein's produced, what's neutralizing it? Are you taking calcium supplements? No. Well, your body can't have acid circulating in the blood, so what's it do? Leaches it right out of the bone marrow, brings it right in the bloodstream to neutralize the hydrochloric acid that got in the bloodstream from the digestive process. It's called acidosis, when your hydrochloric acid from your acid stomach gets in the bloodstream and starts deteriorating circulatory vessel tissues. It's called acidosis. It's a medical term. And that's exactly where it comes from. Excessive meat consumption and that very high hydrochloric acid production by your body in order to digest and eliminate and utilize high meat flesh diets from animals. So, well, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
You got any questions or comment, James?
Yeah. Oh, look, I'd really like you to have a look at the links. I've sent several. But you know,
okay.
It's interesting you say all this, Ron. You know, like all the, you know, the guys that are promoting, you know, high meat flesh protein diets. You know, the problem is they've got missing information. They don't know what you just discovered, with, you lose up to 50% of your digestive enzymes from 37 to 42. They don't know that component.
Right.
And to me,
Right.
that's a big, big mistake.
Well, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yep.
And
Yep.
unfortunately, just like the Atkins program, the high protein, low carb diet, unfortunately, there's going to be literally millions of people that lose their health, millions of people that will die needlessly, and nobody's going to hold these companies or these idiotic diets and fads accountable. That's the sad thing. It's a really, really sad thing. And that's why I try to do these calls. And I was talking to people earlier, just yesterday or Monday, I guess, and told them to come on the call. You're free to ask any question you want about any subject, even about the supplements if you want to know about our supplements. But that's why I do these calls. And nobody can say that, oh, wow, he just doesn't take time or he doesn't care. I'm here every single week. I could have done another 4 hours worth of work over at my big shop, trying to get it finished up before winter comes. But I'll show up here every single week, and that's why I do it. So people that have health issues, have questions, like those kind of diets, and I will give you a very honest, straightforward answer. I'm not going to color code anything. I'm not going to sidestep anything. And you can come right back at me. Let's have an open, honest, clear discussion based upon facts, not on fads, not on somebody's opinions. And so many people will lie through their teeth just to go ahead and get an endorsement or make money off of you, trying to sell you something or some kind of a diet, some kind of a muscle building protein product and workout routine. I mean, if they can make money at it, they'll sell those souls and lie through their teeth 90% of the time. And I remember going back to California, I saw one of my bodybuilder buddies used to pick up Muscle and Fitness magazine, Joe Weider, all of that. Used to be big back when I was a bodybuilder, and I always admired this guy. I actually ran into this little tiny runt. This little tiny runt. I actually ran into him after he was done competing and off his steroids. He tried to tell everybody that he was steroid free. And I looked at this guy, and I looked at him behind the booth. He was trying to sell his book. And I said, there's no freaking way that you were ever that big without being on steroids, because you can't lose that much weight. I mean, this guy wasn't even 180 pounds. If that, I don't even think he was 160 pounds. I looked at him and I said, you know what? I said, I don't know what kind of juice you were on, but don't try to sit there and sell a book telling everybody that, oh, here, let me show you how to do it. I'm a bodybuilder. Look at the size of me. He says, yeah, you're a big guy. I said, yeah, I used to compete at 304 pounds. He said, you got any pictures? I said, no. He said, well, I need pictures. I wouldn't believe that. And I said, really? You just got done saying I'm a really big guy. You don't think that's possible? He said, I didn't think it was possible. I said, I just didn't believe you. I said, well, here, let me show you a few pictures of people that I've trained and worked out with. And, of course, everybody knows I pulled out Mike Ashley and I pulled out Tom Mano. They about crap their pants. And they're like, well, I believe this guy was probably this big. And I said, I was actually bigger than Tom Mano. People used to joke about it down in 2006 when we were down in Cancun for the first time. And Tom says, you know, he says, you keep telling me how big I am, man. Have you looked in the mirror? He used to tell me that all the time. He says, you're a pretty big dude, too. I said, yeah, but not as big as you, man. I said, I used to be, but not as big as you. I haven't been that big in a lot of years. So, but that was 2006. And remember, I started my company in 1990. So, you know, I've been off of my workout routine and bodybuilding and everything else for at least 10 years. So, but anyways, I thought that was pretty fascinating. And like I said, you know, all these guys that go out there and get these huge, massive bodies and then try to tell you on some kind of a diet or a supplement or oh, this is what made me this big. No, it didn't. The steroids did. And I can't stomach liars. It's one thing to go out and tell people, okay, yeah, I did some roids. You had to in order to compete at this level and even begin to be in the top 5. That's the fact. That's the truth. And Tom Mano, he kind of defied all of that. He never, ever did a steroid. He was one of my best friends. I've trained him, worked out with him. All those decades we were together, not one single time could you get him to cheat. He was a guy having nothing but purest of integrity when it came to his sport and what he did. And he and I had conversations. He was frustrated at times because he felt that because everybody else cheated, that he should start cheating too. Then he can really become somebody big and special. I said, Tom, There aren't even 5 people that I can count on my hand that can lift anywhere near the weight that you lift. Why are you so worried about those other 4 people? Just do what you do the best, and you're the best at what you do. You've got the world titles and championships to prove it over and over and over, 30 some of them. And I'm like, why are you worried about what other people think? That always bothered him, that other people were allowed to cheat, and then he had to compete against cheaters, and he couldn't compete on the same plane they did. But he was not going to destroy his health just to go win a powerlifting championship. And I remember we had lots of those conversations. He had a real struggle with that emotionally and for most of his life, and I just couldn't see the point of it all. It's like, man, you got so much more going for you than just a bodybuilding or some kind of a title or an appearance. If that's all you got going for you, wow, how sad is that life? But he had a great family, great wife. I mean, he just had so much going for him that I think he kind of sometimes forgot who he was and how he got there. So,
Ron,
best friend.
How heavy was Tom Menow at his peak?
278 pounds was his best body or powerlifting weight condition. 278, a lot of times he was right up there around 300, 305, 308, right in there.
Okay.
But 278 pounds, he lifted the most weight he's ever lifted. And that's when he got the Finland World Championship of all categories. He even competed against the guys that were much heavier than him, and they were on steroids. It was an open worldwide competition, and he took championship for the super heavyweight. And he was 278 pounds at that time.
Yeah. So comparing him to, say, someone like Lou Ferrigno, I think he was around 258, 260. He was another sort of, 10, 20 pounds.
Yeah, but Lou Ferrigno was big because of steroids. Lou Ferrigno did not lift 700-800 pounds. Not even close.
No.
Not even close. Neither did Arnold Schwarzenegger, neither did Lee Haney, neither did Dorian Yates. None of the Mr. Olympias lifted anywhere near 700, 800, 900 pounds. No, they were really lucky if they could bench press 550, 600 pounds one time. And I remember, and Sanj, I'm sure if you remember this, when you and me and Arvind went over to India, Tom went into a gym in 2 different places over in New Delhi, and the other one was over in Mumbai. We went into the gyms, and each place, when we were over there promoting in fact, I was on the front cover of the Medifest magazine. That's the event in the week that we were talking about. And he went into the gyms and just doing a warm-up, just a little exhibition, threw it up 15 times, 550 pounds.
Yep.
Just a warm-up, 550 pounds, did it 15 times, and he didn't have any spotters over there big enough to feel safe going any higher. So he just says, that's okay. You guys get the idea, right? I mean, he's just like the Pied Piper. He must have had 75 people, older, younger, just following him around everywhere he went.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Incredible story, isn't it? It's an incredible story. Wow.
So he lived an incredible life. And I just feel bad the way it kind of ended with that esophageal cancer.
Yeah. So sad.
Yeah.
So Ron, as you've been talking about Tom, and I've been putting up pictures of Tom on the screen and pictures of him in Cancun and some of his promotional pictures, and I go back to when he attempted the world record in Seattle here when we did that event at the LA Fitness, and man, it's just incredible. It's credible. I say incredible, very credible. Well, but you're right. He stressed, the downside to it, I guess, and bless his heart, he's no longer with us. I know after talking with him, because he spent, I think 4 or 5 days, he stayed at my house, and he told me that he wished he had been true to your product, specifically the enzymes.
Yeah.
Because, he had his own, protein powder, et cetera. So I just want to throw that out there. I know the story, not as well as you, but better than some of the others. And I can verify that, man, your relationship and his relationship was amazing. he was amazing in what he accomplished, and I know the impact you had on him with your product and your coaching and mentoring. But he did make that comment to me, and I'll never forget that. So, yeah.
Well, and that's one of our sore spots, towards the end of his life, was when I found out that he was actually promoting some other product that he private labeled and then put salt in the wound, was through my old manufacturer that cheated me, and I ended up suing him. And that's who actually made his product for him. And it was very much a subpar product compared to mine. And, sadly enough, he lost his life because he was using his stuff rather than my stuff. I saved his wife's life from breast cancer. And, he saw all of that. He used to go around with me promoting all of that, telling the story. And yet, when it came down to the end, he was in such financial straits that he ended up losing his life for doing something on his own rather than something that he knew worked for not only his wife, but so many other athletes around him. So that's the kind of tragedy of the whole thing. But it's okay. We ended up, I forgave him. He's my best friend. I love the guy. I just miss him terribly sometimes. We had a really good time whenever we were together. Never once argued, fought. He's the one person that I've never ever raised my voice to him. He's never ever raised his voice to me. We were always just good old buddies to hang out. Always had a good time. Laughed a lot. That big old deep laugh of his, and my heckle laugh I had, and boy, we laughed a lot, especially in the gyms and stuff. Even after a really hard day of workout, we could find some time to go over to Ma Denny's and have a good old laugh and a good time. So, but anyways, anybody got any questions? Because I think that's all we have for the call tonight. Anybody have any questions, comments, anything they'd like to ask about before we go?
Ron, this is Tana. I have a quick question on, I know several people that are not big vegetable eaters simply because they don't like them. And I've noticed on infomercials on TV, there's a product, it's a whole food supplement called Balance of Nature, and they're promoting that pretty heavily.
Yeah, call up on Fox News, get a discount code, all that stuff. Yeah, it's just like the veggie and just like the veggie caps and the fruit caps. Sure. It's nothing new, been around for a long, long time. And again, I'll tell you, when they talk about the way they process foods and stuff, I'm really glad that they have that commercial out there, because most people don't realize most vegetables and foods, fruits and vegetables, are over 90% water. So you think you're getting all these nutrients and all this stuff and everything else because you literally eat a whole head of broccoli or a whole head of cauliflower, or eat a whole bunch of beans or corn or beets or something else, and you think you're getting all this nutrition because you're eating so much volume of food. No, you're not. You really can get literally pounds and pounds and pounds worth of nutrition in several little capsules. You really can. And that's one of the things that they promote on that product. They take you through how that product is actually produced. And so I'm glad that they do that, because, I've known that for decades, but people have such a hard time understanding. And even when your body goes through, you should actually measure the amount of waste that you actually eliminate, weigh it, versus what you weigh it when you consumed it. You're going to find that it's almost identically the same by the time it gets out as the same as when you consumed it as far as weight goes. And everybody says, oh, well, it's somehow absorbing water, this and that, because it's in the body. No, it's not. It had water already in it. And, that's just the facts. You can literally get rid of over 95% of the fiber and the water, and what you're left with is about 3 to 4% of the actual nutritional value of the food source, whatever it was. And you can do that with any food. You can even do that with meat and muscle tissue and all that stuff. The protein is literally discarded. What you have is the leftover broken down byproducts called amino acids. That's what your body uses from protein. But 85% of the protein itself is totally eliminated. By the time it's all broken down, you only have about 13 to 15% of what's left over, which is amino acids. So again, there goes 85% right out the pooper. So anyways, go ahead and ask me your question. Didn't mean to get off on a tangent there.
You pretty much answered it. I just was wondering if those products were beneficial for someone who doesn't eat a lot of vegetables.
I tell you, it's a great way to get vegetables and fruits into your body. But as I'm going to say something, and it's almost like I just contradicted myself, but I didn't, because we just didn't get to the clarification point of this conversation. Yeah, you can get nutrition in those little dinky capsules of veggies and fruits. But what you're really missing that's a huge, huge benefit to the human body throughout the entire consumption, as well as the GI tract and as well as elimination, is the fiber. In order to get that concentrated nutrition into capsules, you totally eliminate all fiber. And fiber is what keeps the GI tract tissues, the stomach, the colon, the bowels. That's what keeps your entire internal tissues clean, is the fiber. And not once do you hear anything about supplementing with fiber from that veggie and fruit commercial. And again, if I was to make an infomercial, somewhere I'd incorporate that small little fact. Because you can have that great nutrition, and the minute you don't have fiber to keep your GI tract clean, you will become polluted with plaque and all kinds of anaerobic bacteria and fungus and all that stuff, and your tissue goes to crap, and then you can't absorb, even though you got great food, good nutrients, veggies and fruits, concentrated nutrition. If you don't have good tissue, none of that gets absorbed or utilized very well. So that's the balancing side to that conversation. But as far as the veggies and fruits, it's a good source. It's just another vitamin source. And the other thing is, you're going to see that, like, if you were to compare it to my multivitamin, Complete Vitamin Plus, the amount of nutrients that those have in there would be significantly less than what I have, even though you still have 1,000 milligram or an 800 milligram capsule. Because they take out the fiber, they eliminate the fiber, and they dehydrate it, they eliminate the water, and then that's what they're left with. But when you concentrate nutrition after all of those processes have been done, then you concentrate nutrition, and then you add in the digestive enzyme and the mineral formula we have, at the cellular level, you're realizing over 99 to 98 to 99% cellular assimilation and use, or metabolism. I'll call it cellular metabolism, where your body actually uses the nutrients that you absorbed and consumed. Whereas if you put that in there, and just like I've always said before, here's the major flaw with that whole supplement industry. I don't care what kind of quality you're talking about, great, and I have no reason to say that they're some of the best nutrients out there. I've never tried them. I just know they're concentrated. They got a good manufacturing process. They put it on national TV to where people should be able to get a little bit of educated through it and stuff. But if you don't have the digestive capability, even though you got great quality organic nutrients, even concentrated in a pill form, you're not going to be able to utilize it at a cellular level. And what you just ingested was potential toxicity, because it's going to be in the body way too long. Because even though it's already concentrated and broken down, the fiber's gone, the water's gone, you still have to go through the digestive process of breaking it down and chelating it, so it's not only absorbed, but it's recognized by the body as nutrients, and it's digested small enough where it could actually be utilized at the cellular level. Because all cells have little receptor openings around the outside of their membrane, and that's how nutrients exchange. So if it's not small enough, meaning ionized, and an ion is the smallest any element on the planet Earth can be broken down to without breaking down the molecular structure of the element. Once you go submolecular, well, now you've changed the property of the element, so it no longer benefits the body in the same way. So I don't want to get too technical, but yeah, and there again, great question. I love it, but you know, the sad thing is they didn't promote a digestive enzyme first. And people that benefit and take those kind of products, they're in their 50s, they're in their 60s, they're in their 70s. And like I said, you know, one ugly little fact that this world will never escape and I'll never back down from, we've got the proof. I did the clinical and scientific evidence research myself over the last 30 years, and up to pretty close to $35-40 million worth of research went into all of this. And we now know conclusively, we can prove it to anybody. Shortening of the telomeres. There's a reason why the telomeres shorten. And boy, you haven't even heard anything about telomeres in the last 2-3 years. Geez, the possibility of living 300, 400, 500 years just all disappeared. Well, there's a reason for that. because you can talk about all that stuff till you're blue in the face, but it all takes nutrition. And it all come down to the ability of the body to reproduce itself cellularly to keep on functioning tomorrow, next year, in a decade, and next 50, 100 years. And that all comes down to digestion. And when the cells can no longer reproduce them to replace new cells, well, the digestion's gone. And the simple fact is, because we know of the shortening of the telomeres, we can actually measure it now, and you can extrapolate that to a direct percentage of decrease in enzyme production. And the average person that has an age of death of between 74 and 78 in America, that's the average age of death for both men and women. You don't find it in the 60s, you don't find it in the 80s. 74 for men, 77, 78 for women. And the fact is, by the time every one of those women and men are 38 to 42, your body produces less than 50% of the digestive enzymes your body did at age 15. That's a fact. Undisputable. I can prove it to anybody any day of the week. Anybody wants to challenge me. So if you're not dealing and compensating for that, how does anybody expect the rest of the formula to work? Organic vegetables, organic fruits, concentrated nutrition, no fiber, no water, pills, potions, liquids, whatever. None of it's going to work without complete proper digestion. So great question, though. I'm glad you brought it up. I think it is worth trying. They seem like they're pretty good company just looking at what they're doing and stuff from the manufacturing end. And I love the fact that they, completely dehydrate everything. They remove the fiber, and then what's left, they dehydrate that, which is a way of concentrating, because you're removing the liquid. It's just like dehydrating apples and bananas in a dehydrated machine. They're much, much lighter weight than when you put them in. So, they've got some really good, simple, clear processes. A lot of it I use, so I understand it. And there's no reason to think that it's not a great product. But again, you can take a great product and not get much benefit, if any at all, when you're enzyme deficient in the digestive process. So always remember the enzymes first, and that'll give you your best possible outcome, no matter what kind of food source, no matter what kind of nutritional supplements you consume. Okay?
Thank you, Ron.
Yep, you're very welcome. Anybody else have any last-minute questions, comments, real quick? Anybody?
Yeah,
All
Ron,
right,
I got a
Gilbert,
last minute one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick last minute one. I know you have the the daily detox, which is excellent for daily parasitical, parasites removal and all that. But if somebody really wanted to go into an aggressive parasite cleanse, is there any concoction that you can kind of recommend?
Well, if you went into a very aggressive parasite cleanse, the best thing I can tell you is take the probiotics with the FOS we have. The detox actually has the herbs to stimulate mucus, and you're going to get diarrhea and stuff if you try to do an aggressive parasite cleanse with daily detox. That's not for parasite cleansing. That's for daily bowel movements to keep down the toxicity in the bowels. And there's herbs in there that stimulate that whole process, and there's Turkish rhubarb, which kills off parasites in their eggs. There's a couple other ingredients in there that deal with anaerobic bacteria in the GI tract. But if you really want to get rid of parasites, so I guess for me, Sanj, let's first of all clarify what are you determining a parasite is? A bacteria, a virus? Because a parasite to me is anything that would use another organism as a food source for its existence. That's a parasite. When something lives off of something else, that's a parasite. So that's my definition of a parasite. What are you defining as a parasite when you ask that question?
So I'm defining basically parasites that may have ingested through meat sources such as fish, beef, chicken, etc. And
so you're talking about like your liver flukes, your worms,
yes,
maggot eggs, things like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Probiotics. Probiotics are the best way. Just really pump up on those things. I'd be using 6 to 12 a day if I was going to do a deep parasite cleanse from the GI tract and most of your organs. Because if you get it out of the GI tract, then it's not there to migrate into the organs later on. So you always concentrate on the GI tract whenever you talk about parasitology or parasiticity.
Okay. And how long should we, let's just say if I go for 12 a day, how long do you think, a month or so?
No. You should be able to get through it within 10 days to 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah, you've
Perfect.
got a good product. It shouldn't take you a long, long time to get rid of parasites. And those probiotics, they grow as you put them in there. But that's why I said, if you're taking double and triple the amount that you normally would, there's plenty of bacteria in there even before the growth factor occurs to get rid of most parasites, if not all parasites in the human GI tract.
And any specific time?
No, just take them with your meals. They don't have to be taken at nighttime like the Steromax or something like that, or the enzymes. If you want to take them by yourselves where they're not having to interfere with food to be absorbed or anything, that's fine. Because the morning meal will push them back there anyway, sooner or later. They're not going to go anywhere. Okay. So, yeah.
One testimony I will give is about your probiotics. And this was a couple of years ago. I got food poisoning, and I took about maybe 10 or 12. I took them out of the cap, mixed it in with about almost a full glass of milk, and I drank it down. Literally about maybe 15, 20 minutes later, I ended up puking everything out on my driveway. And right after that, I felt like this, just like incredibly energetic, incredibly healthy, and just like that's how fast.
Well, I'm really glad you said you end up puking it out, because really one of the hardest things that the body has is to isolate it, keep it out of the bloodstream. And if your body can break it down, it'll actually throw it back up. It's when you can't vomit and it slowly gets into your bloodstream. Once it's in your bloodstream, there's nothing you're going to do about it. And I know I've talked about this many times, but I remember when I was over in New Delhi, and we stayed at the La Meridian Hotel. This is not a cheap hotel. This goes all the way back to 2004.
Right.
2004. And we were paying over $579 per room per night, and I paid for that bill. There was 4 people there. I was paying over $2,000 a day, and we were there for almost a week. And I remember going in, and this was way before Sanj and Arvind. This was way, way back when I was living in Hawaii. And we just started the Enriching Gifts label in 2000, and Michael Maharaj was my national sales director at the time. We were over in New Delhi, and he and his nephew, Dave Maharaj, out of Sydney, Australia, set this whole thing up. Well, we've been over there, and the very first meal we had, and Swami G was actually there at that meal. We met him earlier that morning. Him and his cardiologist came to the hotel. Anyway, there was a whole bunch of people there. There was 9 of us total, and we all got food poisoning, so severe to where Swami G's cardiologist actually died. Swami G was hospitalized for more than 2 weeks. Dave Maharaj was hospitalized for more than a week. We were only there a week, and we left, and Dave was still in the hospital. Michael Maharaj sat there at the toilet. He literally slept for 5 days on a toilet seat. Pulled up his pillow, sat there right beside his toilet seat in his room. Every time I went in there, I walked in, there he was, right by the toilet. He never slept in the bed. And even with all of everybody getting as sick as they did, I went straight up to the room, took a whole handful, I'm guessing probably 12, 15 at the most, probiotics and enzymes, swallowed them, and within 20 minutes, my headache, my diarrhea, my nausea, everything was gone. And I didn't throw up. It was all gone. And I was the only one capable of conducting business out of the 9 people that were there. And Shanaz Hussein's director of manufacturing, he was there. And he got really, really sick. So we didn't even get to put our nutrition products in the world's largest Ayurvedic and cosmetic company, Hussein Cosmetics, out of New Delhi. They have more business in Ayurvedic medicine and cosmetics than any other company in the world. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. And that couldn't even meet with the people to do anything because he got sick really, really bad. So it was kind of a waste of about $26,000 is what it come out to be. And it was just totally a waste of money because everybody got so sick the very first day. But except for me, I was only sick for maybe about 20 minutes, half hour at the very, very most. So that I know that works. And Dover, I know you guys remember from Cancun, everybody kept coming up to us asking for our free samples because we couldn't sell them because we didn't get the right licensing or permits or whatever to sell in Mexico. So we started giving all the Enriching Gift stuff away at our booth, and everybody kept coming up. They called it the what is the water down there? They have a name for it. It's kind of like the Deli Belly, only they got a name for the water, Mexico poops or whatever. Everybody had diarrhea all the time. Everybody had diarrhea. They constantly coming up to our booth. And the one thing when we left, why we had so much business when we left, because people got great results. Everybody got rid of their diarrhea and stuff. Didn't have the poops and all that kind of stuff. Didn't have diarrhea, any of that. Got rid of it. So we know it worked, and that was one of those great events to where we gave away a lot of product and stuff, but it really paid off in the end because everybody ordered before we left. And I think if I remember right, we did like $73,000 worth of business in less than a week. So that's a good day, good week, no matter what kind of level of business you're talking about. So anyways, anybody else have any last minute questions? Anybody? I think we're done. So if you want to just kind of take it away and close it out. Is Dover still there?
No, I'm here. I was talking to myself. I had myself on mute. And Ron, that was another fantastic call. And I just want to thank you and thank everyone for your questions, because really that's what these calls are about. And there's some great questions as far as some really great conversations. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone. So we'll be back next week, same place, same time. Appreciate each and every one of you.